Hey, and we are back. And it was just so much going on that, you know what, I haven't even been able to really pay the proper attention and honor to the chat family. As always, you all are the most important part of this thing. So going ahead and smash that like button. Maybe just going ahead and satisfy that like button, man. We need the good mojo right now.
I feel you, man.
Especially as we got to discuss where the Pistons go from here. And there's an interesting take both internally, and I can't wait to hear what everybody's take is externally. But let's satisfy that like button.
It's going to be hard to get it up after this bad news, but, you know, we're going to do what we can, man. You know, just take it smooth, man. It ain't got to be rough all the time, man. Just lay down, you know, just clear your head and hit that like button for us, man. We appreciate it. We working hard in here for you, so work hard for us a little bit.
Let's go, man. Hit that like button. Let's run up the likes today in the new year. You know what? If that didn't work, well, let's get you. We got Flannel here. Let's bang it up too, JB. All the mojo, man. I see you in there, JB.
My love going bang, bang, bang. It's my love going bang, bang, bang. It's my love.
Big musket energy in the building. And shout out to the hoodie too, JB Smooth. I definitely see that. If you want to show the people the hoodie before we kind of break down where the Pistons go from here.
Definitely. Shout out Poison Ivy. You can get it at the Woodward Sports shop right now. Of course, I got mine early, but it's always still there available for you. Respect to Jaden Ivey. Prayers up to him. I seen his mom out there as well too yesterday, so it was rough.
Definitely rough, man. His family supports. They be at the games. I'm like, wait, I just saw you coaching like a basketball game last night. How are you also here supporting your son the next night? But you know what? That's what. If you have to go through something like this and you look at whatever, Aiden Hutchinson is going through right now, he has a lot of support around him from his family and his camp. And then Jaden Ivey has that same support system around him as well. And that's what makes me very, very encouraged about what he'll be able to do to overcome this little bit of adversity and come back. But now the Detroit Pistons have to find a way to overcome without Jaden Ivey, who was putting up a pretty good season. We talked about before the season, could he be one of those guys who was not in the top 100 on any ranking? We were upset about where they had Cade Cunningham across the different rankings, but Jaden Ivey wasn't anywhere, and we were all bullish that he would be one to make that top 100. And he was looking really, really good to be able to climb up the charts and be better than where they had Cade ranked last year. But when you look at this team right now and some of the trends, last night they won this game and they didn't get a lot of contribution from Malik Beasley, who was 0 of 7, 0 of 4, 2 points. And you know what? You can have King, take that whenever you need, bro.
You got
straight up Malik Beasley. You got it. That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's snowing out here. It's Detroit. It happens sometimes. But this team was still able to overcome against an Orlando Magic team that had been playing about 500 ball without Franz and without Paolo. They got a pretty good veteran core there. But you got contributions from Tim Hardaway, from Tobias Harris, from Jalen Duren, which when you look at the wrinkles there, J.B. Bickerstaff has figured something out, and he is able to utilize that pick and roll. He talked about it a little bit last night, able to best utilize that pick and roll, and they're helping Jalen Duren better see his space in front of him. And what do you see a lot more of? What have y'all heard me crying for years? Dunk everything.
Yes, man.
Everything.
He played so aggressive last night.
And that's where he's at right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a clip that I didn't post. I'm going to post it today, and it was in practice. That's why I said the vibes were immaculate. Where he went up, he was doing the drill. He went up for the layup. They fouled him on purpose, and he missed it badly, and they were laughing. They were like, like, hey, Jalen missed it. And he was like, no, man. Like, you could see him pissed. He's like, give me the ball. It was Stewart's turn. He pushed him out the way. I'm like, oh, man, he bucking up on Stu. Stu just kind of laughed, and, they give him the ball, and he goes and he dunks on the coaches. And I'm just like, oh, snap.
Yeah.
So then to see him go out there like that, it's like, okay, that's what you want to see. And it was one power move he made where it was just straight to the basket, spin move, pump, and then just up. And it was just like that. Decisive, aggressive, just crashed the rim.
And I've said this before, that Cade to Duren live combo, it's there all night long if you want it. So they got to utilize that more, man. When Duren is driving full speed to the basket, Cade can find anybody on the floor, man. And I just love that pick and roll combo between them.
Yep. So offensively, they do have to get offense from at least 5 of these players, and that's where with Beasley, that's why this team was probably a little bit ahead of expectation because they were able to get 5 and 6 players a night that could get you double figures and were hustling and things of that nature. Now, without Jaden Ivey, you're going to have to rely on Tobias Harris having games like last night more often. So they can do it internally, but I know that that's not necessarily a recipe that people want to depend on if your name is Chase.
I'll be honest. It's not even just Chase. Like I've even given him I've given him his flowers early on for maybe predicting the Tobias Harris disappointment before when I was more high on it. So yeah, obviously
he's clipping right now.
If you get last night's Duren and you get last night's Tobias Harris and you get the opposite of last night's Beasley, the rest of the season Beasley, then yeah, they can overcome Ivey's injury and make the play-in. The one thing that I'm like, maybe Indiana or Atlanta or Miami if they trade Jimmy Butler, which is very doable. It's just, hey, we're gonna see what tier of superstar Cade Cunningham is at for the rest of the year. I'm not saying that if they don't make the play-in that it's a referendum on Cade or anything like that, but I believe that he's good enough to at least get this team to the play-in even without Jaden Ivey. It's not going to be easy, but Cade is just what if he does? Then what tier of player is he in next year's list where he's certainly higher than 66 or whatever that dog shit was?
Well, you notice that was the player that I didn't mention yet.
Yeah.
And it's for good reason because you save the best for last. It's the straw that stirs the drink. So you put the other ingredients in and then it's just like, hey, bro, we're not enjoying this unless you got the straw. That's what Cade Cunningham is right now. And that's such a good question I ask is we're going to figure out what tier of star Cade Cunningham really is. And I like the fact that you also put out there, but it's not a referendum. It shouldn't be used as a sign of hate or to try and knock Cade Cunningham. I do believe, though, that Cade Cunningham is the quality of star to lift this team up.
Yeah.
When you look at how much he's doing even more so this year with the usage rate, that's going to already be sky high. And now it's going to go up a whole lot more. It can't go up a whole lot more, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up another 1% or 2%, which it's already astronomical for a player. But what he's doing with that time to get the rebounds, what he's doing with that time to get the assists, and he's doing things to help the squad. It's not like it's cheap rebounds. He's crashing. This team is boxing out. The little things that they do that JB Bickerstaff has instilled in this team is what gives me ultimately kind of confidence and hope. He has them in the right spots. We see players taking the right steps forward, especially the young players. And so to be in the right spots offensively, to be in the right spots defensively, yes, you're going to be more prone now to ups and downs over longer trends without Jaden Ivey in that lineup. But I do believe that this team is already improving overall as a squad, and that maybe if as everybody on this roster, especially your top 6, 7, 8 players and Asar Thompson, improve incrementally, that you do have a good chance to be able to maintain at least pace. Now, in terms of some of the expectation when we said, can they kind of stave off Philly? Can they be there to catch that 6th spot when Miami falls? Without Jaden Ivey, I believe that becomes significantly more difficult. But I still believe that the postseason is what they should get. I believe that play-in still is in play for them.
They still in contention for that, absolutely. And big shout out to Asar Thompson last night as well. He played great defense, man. I think he would have 3 or 4 steals.
4 steals.
Yeah, he was out there, man.
He was the number one on defense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And even offensive, when he's going to the rim, I don't care if he doesn't get them all the time. It's just that aggressiveness, man. That's what you need to see out of him. But overall, the only thing that I'm kind of concerned about is that, okay, Jaden Ivey was averaging just over 17.5 points, 4 assists and 4 rebounds. So missing that out of your lineup when you got a Tobias Harris that you can't necessarily count on that from night to night at this point in his career, I think that's going to be hard. And this is no knock on Cade. I do feel like, he's a star and he can uplift this team, but he already does so much for this team, and that's with Ivey on the floor. So missing out on those reliable, 16 to 17 points a night, that's tough, man. That's going to be tough to overcome. I do feel that maybe this might expedite a move, kind of in the way that when Hutch went down, I think they realized like we have to make a move. They might have did one anyway, but once Hutch went down, it was like, okay, we have to solidify that edge rushing position. I think the Pistons do something similar here. I don't know what it looks like right now, but in terms of getting closer to the trade deadline, I do feel like they'll go out and try to find somebody that can provide another scoring spark for this team, because that's going to be a lot on Cade to have to carry night in and night out.
That's where when you look at last night, it needs to be a collective of players that I believe can do it. We don't necessarily need Tobias to go out there and be, darn near perfect every night.
No,
but if you're getting contribution from Tobias, because you got to think most of what they've done so far has been with Jalen Duren not even averaging a double-double.
That's true, yeah.
So if you get Jalen Duren averaging a double-double, which I believe that is highly possible and probable and should be happening, these are some of the ways that now you're talking about making up for a loss of a Jaden Ivey without having to rely solely on Tobias Harris being a 20-point per game scorer. If Tobias can just be an efficient 13 to 15 a night, and you get Jalen Duren to be a double-double guy, you can make up for what Jaden Ivey misses. Not like a direct one-to-one correlation.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you're looking for just your marginal improvement. So from just a team aspect, they have enough to maintain pace. But in terms of being on the pace that I thought they were setting up for themselves, that's why I do agree, you want to make a move. But it gets so much more difficult when it's a Jaden Ivey, depending on if this is long-term or not, because you're looking at, potentially re-signing him as well. So now you have to think about what types of contracts that you're bringing back and such. It's just that injury. There's so many more layers to that in terms of what you do to fix it, that I think that their best option might be internal. Like I don't know. Do you go up now and push for the Brandon Ingram type trade? Do you go and bring in that type of a player now? Because that's what they're going to be presented with effectively.
Yeah, I know that in the games where Jaden Ivey missed, just when it wasn't, I think we're all going through a certain stage of grief right now. Jeez. I am looking at the Pistons, and I do have some concern with where the scoring is going to come from. Let's just call a spade a spade. Tobias Harris is having one of the worst seasons of his career. Do we think that maybe he can turn it around?
Maybe.
That's
a hard.
That is a big
hard
maybe.
sell.
Jalen Duren is averaging less than 10 points a game. And don't get me wrong, those guys, both of them played excellently last night. You don't win the game without him. But that's what I'm a little bit concerned about. Tim Hardaway Jr., as much as I've loved what he's done at times this year,
so he's streaky.
Very streaky. He is the definition of a microwave or a freezer.
But
and he's always been that way.
He's going to get you 2 or 3 charges a game.
That's
he
fair.
hustles
That's
on
fair.
defense.
But remember,
He hustles on defense.
I specifically said scoring because defense without Ivy, I'm actually not worried about. I'm not saying Ivy's a bad defender. I'm just saying that they have enough. To me, it's more about scoring. You're going to need guys like Tobias to step up. You're going to need Malik Beasley to continue to have the season that he's been having. Yeah. You're going to need
Marcus Sasser got to get more buckets. Like,
do we trust Ron Holland and Asar Thompson to be consistent bucket getters at this stage?
No.
I don't. And that's okay, by the way. But when you have a Jaden Ivey injury, who I think people forget is second on the team in scoring, people are going to need to step up, whether it's making a move, whether it's people taking leaps, whether it's Simone Fontecchio getting healthy and doing what he did last year. I don't know what it is.
Simone Fontecchio. And that's what I mean, though. They do have the pieces to be able to at least maintain postseason, like the play-in.
But can't you rely on that is the question.
I mean, at this point in time, the notion is, do you give up something to Band-Aid Jaden Ivey? Or do you go internally and say, you know what?
Yeah.
Tobias, $26 million a year. Jalen Duren, you're a baby man child. You've seen it out for a couple games. But that's what I'm saying. We have to require, because if not, then you got to trade those people right now. If you are telling me that you cannot depend on Simone Fontecchio, Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren to get you more than pedestrian, I'm talking about they're based on what we expected, man, this is like they're crawling right now. It's like, just can we get at least some baby steps?
Right.
Jalen Duren has to be a guy that gets you 15 and 10, period. He hasn't done that. He has to. And if he can't do that right now, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
That's where I'm at. That's why I'm just like, hey, look, the expectation isn't about necessarily do I think they will or not. The expectation is, You're right, and I'm glad you mentioned them. Simone Fontecchio, Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, those guys have to be the guys that they were supposed to be when we were coming into the season. If they were, we would be having, in my opinion, a much different conversation right now.
Yeah.
We would still be sad. We would know how big a loss Jaden Ivey is. But imagine if it was 15 and 10 Jalen Duren with 2.5 stocks a game.
Right,
imagine if it was Tobias Harris who was hitting 37% from behind the arc on high volume 3-pointers and hitting free throws to win the game. You know what I mean? What if it was that? But it's just like, what if it was Simone Fontecchio, who we saw last year?
Right.
Well, we don't have any of that right now. And it's just like, dog.
I totally agree
this way.
with the Duren take. I mean, obviously he needs to be better, and that's why I said when he has a fire, when he plays with a fire, you get a much better Jalen Duren out there, man. I don't know what it is with him. Some nights he gives you that fire, some nights he don't. But going forward, he does need to be better. But we talking about Tobias Harris in this role now. I would say your second scoring option in the starting offense. I just don't think he has it in him at this point in his career to do that consistently every night. And then we're talking about Fontecchio, which, it'd be nice if we can get more production out of him, but he's a bench player at this point. So I just don't know, man. The improvement that Jaden Ivey made this year is why you might have to go out and try and get somebody else.
They got to get someone else. Chuck Brewer makes the point. The need for a backup point guard just became an emergency.
His improvement, like he was the official number 2 to Cade. His improvement this year made him, thrive in that role. So, without a number 2, a consistent number 2, it's going to be hard, man. It is.
It has to be collective. That's why I have more faith in Tobias Harris getting me 13 to 15 points per game. I'm not asking him to get me 20. Don't replace what Jaden Ivey was doing by yourself. Can you just get me a little bit of what I saw last night, even if you missed a couple more shots? Just get me that. He hit his open threes. He played aggressively in the paint. He played good defense. He mucked it up. That's all I need. If Tobias Harris just does that, it's tremendously better than some of the stretches we've seen this year where we're like, look, bro, you might have to go to the bench and when Bobby Clintman gets back, hey, maybe just slide further down the bench. That's where fans were getting. So it's like if I can get 13 to 15, I'm not asking 17 to 20. And then Jalen Duren takes some marginal steps forward. You do replace the scoring. You do get more and Jalen Duren is who I'm going to probably put the most pressure on to be able to step up.
Absolutely.
Draft classmate. And nobody physically, in my opinion, can really match up with him. There's not many guys in the NBA is going to. What we see last night is what we need to see a lot more from him. That aggressive, just crashing the rim and understanding nobody's going to be able to keep up with him.
He's a specimen. That's a for sure. But do you know who else has been playing like a specimen? Although physically he's not someone who's superimposing, but he plays really big. Kirby Joseph. That was not my best. That was not my best transition. But anywho, there is I'll just give you a quick preview. What I originally had planned for this segment when it comes to Kirby Joseph, juxtaposed with the team that he did not make, there's